Welcome to Via the Grapevine, proudly brought to you by Macbeth on Whiskey, and offering you the chance to learn more about wine, the masters behind them, and even which wines to collect. My guest today originally hails from the UK. She has a wicked sense of humor and a no-nonsense approach to wine. She not only writes about wine, she also leads the WSET course in South Africa, which offers beginner to expert training in the knowledge of wine. Cathy Marston, welcome to Via the Grapevine.
Hi, Guy. Thank you for having me. Very, very pleased to be here.
You said to me, you'll have a bookshelf of wine behind you. Is that okay? I wasn't expecting it to be of such an industrial size. Do you want to explain to us that that is not just personal tasting stock?
This is not what I drink, okay? I would love to drink all this, but unfortunately I can't. This is my teaching stock. So this is the wines that we use to teach our courses in the Western Cape and also in Gauteng as well. So yeah, it looks good, but it's not for me, unfortunately. I wish it was.
Let's start off with how and where your wine love affair began.
Okay, well, I'm from the UK, as you said, so I actually got into wine through marketing. So I applied for a job as a marketing manager at a brewery, actually, that had a small wine section that they used to bring the wines in and sell the wines for their pubs. And that's how it started off. And then the wine list started getting more popular and more interesting. And so my first job in the wine industry was looking after that wine list and organising direct sales and getting more customers for the online wine sales. So I was very lucky that although I went in from a marketing background, Adnams, who are the company, believe very strongly that if you don't know what you're selling, you can't sell it, and marketing's all about selling. So they put me through all my WSET courses quite quickly, actually. So it took me a couple of years afterwards to take sort of, understand everything I'd learnt. You can shove anything in your mind, can't you, to pass an exam? But it took me a little bit of time to work out what I was talking about afterwards. And that's really where it went from there. I remember the very first sort of like light bulb wine that I ever had, because up until then I was buying all the cheap stuff from supermarkets. I used to buy this thing called Sicilian Red. And we bought it because about every second month they would sell you a litre for the price of 75 centilitres, which we thought was awesome. So that was my drinking wine. And then I went to work for these guys, and we literally never spent more than £4 on a bottle of wine. And they gave me a bottle of wine from, a glass of wine from California, and the wine was £15 a bottle. And I was just like, oh my God, I had no idea wine tasted like that. It was a hell of a shock, and it was wonderful. And since then, I've really, loved exploring more.
And is it fair to say that your focus now is on educating people about wine? Are you currently still the only approved program provider in Africa for the Wine and Spirit Education Trust?
Another teacher over in Durban, so Laurie Cooper. She's actually a winemaker for Abingdon Estate over in Kings River. I think it's Kings River or Lions River.
Lions River in KZN.
That's it. Yeah, there we go. And she does some teaching as well. But we've been here the longest. We're the biggest. We teach actually throughout the rest of Africa too. So we've taught in Namibia, we've taught in Mauritius, we've taught in Maldives and the UAE as well. So yeah, we're teaching is mainly what I do. I used to do more writing, and then probably about 3-4 years ago, I changed from being a writer who taught, and I'm now a teacher who every now and then writes a bit.
Got you. And today I want to tap in a little bit to your knowledge and your teaching without giving too much of anything away that would steal from the courses. But I think it's important that as an introduction for our viewers and our listeners, an introduction to wine with someone like yourself is wonderful. I first studied wine at Cape Wine Academy, and then thanks to you, I was fortunate enough to achieve the WSET Level 2 award.
You did.
What advice do you have for people that want to learn a little more about wine, but they have no intention of following a career in it?
Well, I think that if you're going to start off, watching podcasts like this is actually a very good idea, because it gives you the bare basics and the tools. You can do it at home on your own. You don't need to feel pressurized in front of tasting in front of other people, which you shouldn't feel anyway, but it just gives you the idea that, you know, that a little bit of confidence that you can actually taste wine. So I would watch, there's lots and lots of really interesting stuff online you can look at now, lots of cool podcasts and things. So I would do a couple of those, and then I would go and do an introductory course and just see how you enjoy it and you get on. Because I mean, I mean, it's no secret what I do, and I'm happy to share things that we teach with you right now. It's not a problem, because I can't teach everything to everybody in like the time that I have anyway. The more I teach people about wine, the more I actually think what I teach is confidence, you know, is I teach people to be confident in the wines that they like, to maybe help them understand a little bit more why they like that kind of wine, and then hopefully that will help them to find other kinds of wines that are similar that they'll also enjoy. But it's really giving people confidence to say, look, you know, this is my thing, this is my wine, and I like to drink this. So that's what I'm teaching more and more these days, I think.
So to the 3 wines we have today, my brief to Cathy was, let's taste and talk about 3 wines that you think would be best to start, or to get a novice excited about wine. And I'm guessing that you'll start with the Rath's Original, will you?
Absolutely. Yeah, very well done. Fantastic. I will do. So what I was thinking with these wines, when you were asking me about this, because there's a lot of really good wine that you can buy that isn't particularly expensive. But if you want something that's going to excite, if you want that, oh my Lord moment like I had when I first sort of got into the wine industry, you need to spend just a little bit more money. Okay, I'm not saying that you go out and you spend thousands and thousands, because, you know, if you don't quite know what kind of wine is your kind of thing, then that's a waste of your money. But you're going to get more interest and more character when you spend just that little bit more. So we're looking at wines that are not cheap, but they're not massively expensive, and hopefully they'll be affordable and people could, you know, pick them up and enjoy them over a nice bright the weekend kind of thing.
And I think one of the first bases to start, and I've lined them up here, is glassware. So when I did the course with you, as you can see in the back there, that's the little case that you'll get when you do the case, and you'll be given one of these glasses. This was the glass that we used for the course, but most people won't have one of these. They're probably going to have something like this, or maybe they've purchased one of these from Checkers, for example.
Very smart.
Does it matter which glass? I mean, you should be trying your wine in, you're tasting, nosing, and maybe just take us through why this one is specifically used versus the others.
Well, if you look at the shape of all 3 of them, actually, all of them come in at the top. And that's the most important thing when you're trying to learn about wine, because what you want is you want a fat bottom. This is why I'm so good at wine, you know, because I also have a fat bottom. So you want something that's quite wide at the bottom, so that all the wine has got sort of room to spread itself out, and then the aromas can sort of start releasing themselves from a wide surface area on the top of that wine. But then you want the glass to funnel all those aromas in towards your nose. So any kind of glass that does that, so that one does that perfectly. It's a bit wider at the bottom, then it comes in at the top. The other one that you've got, I think I've got one's very similar to that there today, so they look quite similar shape to yours. That will work as well. Yeah, I think we're actually on matching glasses there. Cheers.
Cheers.
Exactly. So any glass that does that is going to be good. The hardest ones are the ones that are fat and stay fat or go further out. Those are.
Would that be like this?
No, that's fat and comes in, so that's cool too. And you know, you put your red wine in there, which I think is a good idea, because that is such a wide base at the bottom that's really allowed the wine to spread out an awful lot, and then to show lots and lots of aromas. But I wouldn't get too het up about glasses. We use the little ISO ones, the first one that you got, the one that we gave you with the course, because they're an easy size for people to carry around. They fit into the bags that are made sort of to fit them, so that's quite convenient too. And they are good at sort of at funneling. And you know, when we're teaching people about wine, we actually don't want you to drink it. So the fact that they're smaller does discourage people from filling it all up and having a whole glass and then not paying attention.
And so to start with, we've got the original Raats Chenin Blanc. Why did you choose this one, and what should we be looking at? Because I know from the course, it's you start by looking at the clarity of the wine. I leave it up to you. You
okay,
take us through.
So I chose this wine. Brevet Raats, who makes this wine, is a very good friend and he's a very good supporter of our courses as well. And I like teaching with this wine because it really shows everything that it should show very clearly and easily to people. Now, when people are starting out with wine, what they generally want to taste is quite straightforward, fruity flavours. They don't necessarily want other confusing flavours like oak, and we'll talk about that just in a second. So this is the original Chenin Blanc, so it is unwooded, so they've made it in stainless steel tanks. And what I'm hoping people will get from this is nice, clear, clean, crisp, yellow and slightly sort of orangey fruit. So when you're tasting wine, you do look at the colour. And the reason you're looking at the colour is it's going to give you a hint maybe of the style of wine that it is. So if it was a sweeter wine, then it might be slightly deeper in colour. If it was an older wine, it might be deeper in colour. And if it had been in an oak barrel, it also might have a little bit more colour in there as well. So this is quite pale and lemon. So we can already start to guess that this is quite a young wine, and that maybe it's not sweet and it doesn't have oak. You need to do the whole swirly thing if you can. So this is why another reason why it's good to get glasses that come in at the top, because if you do swirl it, it's actually quite hard then for wine to throw out.
Pop out.
So you don't want to do that. So you can do it in midair, or you can do it on the table. It doesn't make any difference which way you do it. But the idea of that is that you're trying to add a bit of oxygen in there. And again, it's to open up those aromas and encourage them to come out and hit your nose. And then we sniff it. So I don't know what you can smell on here, but I can smell. I always get pineapples on these Raats wines. Fresh pineapples and a little bit of peaches and some yellow apples. Not really green, not really.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what are the yellow apples called? Because I
don't know. Golden Delicious, maybe?
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
That's exactly what I was getting initially, and then that hint of pineapple and almost a fruit salad that comes through.
Yeah. That's absolutely what it is. So most white wines tend to taste of green, yellow and orange fruits. And a lot depends on how much sunshine they get as to how ripe they get, and then their flavours will change the more ripe that they get. So this is a wine that the grapes are picked. They're picked ripe, they're fully ripe, but they're not overripe. So it's more of a yellowy, greeny kind of fruit spectrum. Whereas I think the next one, we're actually going to get a little bit more orange fruit coming from it. And I'll explain why when we get to that there. Okay, so the next thing is obviously to taste. So cheers.
Cheers, the most exciting part.
I know, the best bit about it.
And I learned from you that while the wine is still in your mouth, it's a good idea to suck a little bit of air in. That mixture of oxygen just kind of opens up the flavors a bit more, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and it makes you look good in front of people as well. So as long as you keep the wine in your mouth and you don't drool. Drooling is not cool when you're drinking wine. Definitely.
Although I was at a function with at a tasting with my wife. We were allowed to bring partners, and she was seated next to a som. In fact, he was the chairman of the Sommeliers Association. And every time he tasted, he went, and she leant over to me. She said, "What's going on here? Has this man got a problem?" I said, no, love, he's very professional.
That's it, exactly. Yes. So there's all sorts of weird things that we do. So once you've actually got the wine in your mouth, you then need to think about lots of things that are going on. So often people start immediately thinking about the flavors. which is cool, and you do want to think a bit about the flavors, but you know, flavors are not always the same between people. So if you've got people watching this podcast that actually have got these wines and they're tasting along at home with you, then maybe I'm saying pineapples and apples, but actually maybe they're not getting that at all, and that doesn't mean that they're wrong, it's just different. So you can't always rely on flavors to be able to convey what's going on with the wine. So you look at other things as well. So in this wine, I would say that I can't taste any sugar. So this is a dry wine. I can feel in my mouth a lot of acid. And you feel acid almost running down your jawline, so you can feel it sort of like tingling. And after you've swallowed it, you swallow again because it's created lots of saliva in your mouth. So you have to keep swallowing to swallow that saliva, and that's how you know it's a high acid wine. And that acid makes it nice and fresh and crisp, and a wine that you want to drink by the swimming pool in summer kind of thing. And then the last thing you think about on a wine is after you've swallowed it or spat it, but I'm sure that no one's spitting this morning or this afternoon. So after you've done that, then think about how long the flavors last. And this is really why it's sometimes worth spending a little bit more on a wine, because that money usually gets translated into more concentrated flavors, and then those flavors will last longer at the end. And when you're learning about wine, there's a lot to think about whilst it's in your mouth. So having that extra time at the end of when you finish that mouthful, having that extra time at the end is actually very useful, because then you can just think a little bit more about, yeah, I did get those flavors and that was really nice, and yeah, it's hanging around here, and yeah, and so it just gives you a little bit more time to think about it. So
and that acidity also lends itself to the term zesty, doesn't it? That when people describe a wine as zesty, that's what they're hinting
crisp,
at as well.
Fresh, lip smacking, all that sort of thing. So yeah.
So let's move on to the next Chenin, not Chenin rather, but it's the Wetzelhof Chardonnay.
Chardonnay, yeah. So
and it's the finesse Chardonnay that you've chosen for us today. So there's the
they make quite a few different Chardonnays. I've got mine here as well. There we go. And they make quite a few different Chardonnays. They make a very nice unwooded one called Limestone Hill, and then they make really beautiful serious ones, and they cost quite a lot of money. So this is their starter one on the wooded side. So what we're going to smell when you smell this one is very different to the first one, because this wine has gone into an oak barrel. All right, so what that means, it's picked up, as you know, obviously, is it's going to pick up lots of creamy, toasty, a little bit of smoke, all those kinds of things, perhaps maybe some spices, maybe like some cloves or nutmeg or whatever, and all those things get added into the fruit and make the wine more interesting and more complex. So I don't know if you want to have a swirl and a sniff, see if I'm talking rubbish, which is possible.
That's what I love about you, your sense of humor and humbleness. I'm always, I'm a massive fan of Chardonnay, and I've been a fan of wooded Chardonnays since the beginning as well. I don't know why, but there is quite a lot of people that would hate wooded Chardonnays.
Anything but Chardonnay, darling.
Exactly. So talk us through that. I mean, why the negativity around such a beautiful, elegant grape that offers so much variance, whether it's unoaked or oaked?
Well, I blame the Australians, I'm afraid. So it's all their fault. So what's happened probably about sort of in the 90s, I guess it was, maybe the 90s and then the early 2000s, was that Chardonnay became so trendy, very, very trendy. And it was the wooded style that became very trendy. And then it wasn't not fair to blame the Australians, although they certainly didn't help. People started chasing those oaky flavors and trying to get them as much as they can in the bottle without always considering whether the grapes themselves were up to it. Now, when you smell this wine, this smells a bit riper. To me, there's a little bit more peaches, there's a little bit more orange juice and orange zest, so it's more orangey things. Now, Chardonnay itself actually doesn't have a huge amount of flavour, which is why it actually likes to go with those oaky flavours, because they sort of help each other out. But if you're going to get a Chardonnay that doesn't have much flavour of its own to start with, and then you smack it with a big fat whack of toasty woody oak, that's all you're going to taste, because that oak is going to overwhelm that wine, and you're going to get this, just literally, it's like chewing a plank of wood. And that's what happened in the 90s and the early 2000s, was that everyone got so desperate to chase these oaky flavours, they concentrated all on the oak and not on the fruit. And so what people were ending up with didn't actually taste like wine, didn't taste very nice at all. So the backlash came against Chardonnay, but actually the backlash was against oak more than anything else. So that's why people need to maybe look at trying again. And it's really cool when we do our courses and we have people who say, I'm a Sauvignon drinker, I only drink Sauvignon. And then you give them Chardonnay and they go, oh yeah, actually that's really nice, isn't it? You know, so.
Because it's all about which one you try, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you think you don't like it, then just try again, but try something like this, which has got balance. So I can smell the oak and I can taste the oak, but I can smell the fruit at the same time as well.
And you do, and that oak is often, does it translate as a kind of a vanilla or a butterscotch kind of aroma?
Yeah. You must have had a good teacher, Guy. You've definitely got a good palate there.
I get mandarin on
perfect, yeah. And I get a little bit of like you've cut a peach in half and you put some brown sugar on it and you've shoved it under the grill, you know, like a little bit of sort of toffee, peachy and things. But that orange, there's a lot of orange zest and orange peel, and I think mandarins, you're absolutely spot on there.
Pulls you into the glass, so we have to taste.
We do.
Now, De Wetshoff have got a wonderful reputation, excuse the cat's tail. She has to make an appearance on Via the Grapevine. Otherwise, it wouldn't be Via the Grapevine. But De Wetshoff have got a wonderful reputation for Chardonnay, don't they? I mean,
they do, yeah. They were actually the first people to bring cuttings of Chardonnay into the country. It's actually very difficult. South Africa has a very tightly regulated industry in terms of what we can plant, and it's done for everyone's own good to make sure that the grapevines that we bring into the country, they're not diseased, that they're not going to, you know, bring in lots of bad stuff that's going to affect all the vines that are already here. The downside is that sometimes it takes some time to get new stuff in, and that was what was happening with Chardonnay. So way back in the day, I think this must have been in the 80s or 90s, I can't really remember when it was, and Dani de Wet said, oh no, I've had enough of this, I'm going to bring some in anyway, and they smuggled it in and planted it. But the other reason why Chardonnay is very good in De Wetshoff is that it's based in Robertson. And Robertson is one of the few areas in South Africa that has got chalky limestone soils. So I'm sure you know that the other style of wine that Robertson's very famous for is sparkling wine, which again is made from Chardonnay. And that's the same kinds of soils that you find in Champagne in France. And what it gives Chardonnay is it gives it a really long finish and lots of elegance and sort of different kinds of spectrums of flavour. And I think that's what you find on this wine here. Honestly, I think for the money, this is a big over-deliverer.
It does indeed, and it delivers a lot more in terms of flavor. I know you said you don't always have to think about flavor. We can feel it. We can talk about mouthfeel and acidity, but just straight off the bat, I kind of get apricot jam on toast, and that's kind of the flavors that I'm getting. Not as high acidity, obviously, because your mouth, as you said, you don't get as much saliva delivery, so there's less acidity. And that's obviously the oaking that's affected that. So a wonderful, wonderful introduction to a flavorsome wooded wine. And thank you for choosing this one, Cathy. I think you've done very well with that. That's lovely. It's
one of my favorites. I really like this one. Yeah.
Just very quickly to take a step back and then again forward with the Chenin. If people are asking about, and I'm often asked about food and wine pairing, what would your advice be with a more acidic wine. I would say that that's better with kind of pasta dishes.
Mhm.
Your advice, Chardonnay, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you think about the weight of the wine. So the Rats is a little bit more lighter bodied. So I would think of slightly lighter food. So maybe fish, sushi, light salad, sort of those kinds of things. And then the Chardonnay, because it's got the oak, is a little bit richer and a little bit fatter. And that's really good wine with things like chicken dishes. So roast chicken. It can actually, that very sort of soft fruitiness can actually handle mild curry as well. I've had this very successfully with a Cape Malay style curry, and it works really nicely. Those sort of sweet aromatics and then that sort of the sweet sort of toastiness of the oak. It's a very nice combination. So yeah, I think I'd go chicken curry. That would be my favorite with the second wine.
You've moved us on to a red. As an introduction to red, you've chosen the Hartenberg Cabernet Sauvignon Shiraz 2018.
Love this wine. This is my winter drinking wine. I get cases of this throughout winter. I've always got this in the house. This is one of my favorite wines to drink and open on a weekday night.
Now, with looking at the color of a red wine, it varies to the way we've examined the white wine, which you explained in terms of clarity. A darker color on a white wine will illustrate either wood or age or sweetness. When you're looking at a red wine, what would you say for a beginner? What should you look for when people hold it up, and you're wanting to kind of examine it and enjoy it?
Looking for age mainly, because to be honest, most red wines are wooded, so you're not really going to see a wood difference in most red wines, but you're looking for age and to see how old it is, and it will also maybe sometimes give you an idea on the kind of wine. And what you're looking for is the difference. So this bit here, the thick bit in the middle, that's the core of the wine, and then here where it's touching the glass, that's the rim. So you're looking for I have to lick my finger then. You're looking for the difference between the core and the rim, because the rim is where it's going to show the age. Now, as red wines get older, they actually get browner, because what's happening is a process called oxidation. So they're starting to oxidize and to get a little bit older. It's the same thing that if you cut an apple open and you leave those halves open, as you know, they're going to get brown, and eventually the whole thing will get brown and it will fall to pieces. So that's what happens to all fruit. And this is only made from fruit, so the same thing's going to happen. So as it gets older, it starts to oxidize, and you'll see that brownness at the rim if the wine is showing a bit of age. Now, for me, this isn't showing any at all. This is quite nice and young and tight and fresh. Mine's all kind of a ruby red. How's yours looking?
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah,
I am trying to hold it onto a white background. It's always a good idea.
definitely.
Yeah. I've got a wooden table, and the other thing as well to remember is that the different varieties of red grape are going to give you different colors as well, because you might have bright purple in there, and that's fine. It's just to do with the varieties. So
as well. So if you're drinking a Pinot Noir, then you won't find it to be this much color, and it's more likely to go brown earlier on, because Pinot Noir's got a very thin skin, and the skin is where all the exciting stuff comes from for black grapes, that you get tannins and you get color coming from there as well. But this is two grapes. So this is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Shiraz, so blended together. And both of these grapes, they like sunshine, and they should be giving us, hopefully, lots of black fruit flavors rather than the red fruits that you normally can get with a Pinot Noir or a Grenache or something else.
Yeah, good mulberries and black plum. There's also, for me, a hint of cigar box there, which very far in the distance. But it might be the hint of, what would that be?
That would be the oak. Yeah, so that cigar box, that little almost perfume thing, cedar maybe, that's going to come from the oak that's gone into this wine. I get black cherries as well, lots of black cherries on here.
One of the early tips that I learned in wine tasting, which I know Cathy will echo for us, is that if you really want to experience wine and learn about it, the best way is to keep tasting, keep nosing, and try as many different types of wine as you can. But something that somebody didn't necessarily tell me, which was a bit of a struggle for me in the beginning, was also to go and find the substances that are usually described in wine and knows those, so that you build a familiarity in your own mind's eye of what cedar smells like. Cathy mentioned it there. What does a cigar box smell like? You can step into one of the cigar shops and ask to go into the humidifier.
Yes.
You know, that's one of the keys, isn't it? Is sniff cloves. Give yourself the opportunity to, if you're really passionate about learning more, notice the descriptors.
You have to think before you drink, really, a little bit, you know. And we often find that chefs are very good wine tasters, or foodies, you know, which obviously you're a bit of a foodie as well. So, you know, that's obviously going to help you too, just because they're exposed to lots of different flavors. But anyone can do it. You just need to practice a little bit more. So I always tell people at courses, the more you drink, the more you know. As long as you think before you drink, and don't just drink to get drunk at the end of the day. So you need to have just a couple of thinking time about it. You know, what is it I like about this? What am I getting on this wine? What is it making me think of? Cheers, it's lovely. And then off you go and you can drink it and have a nice time. And then definitely, like you're saying, trying stuff you've not tried before. I think, is it Mae West who said, when I'm faced with the choice between two evils, I always try the one I've never tried before. So I think that's a good thing to think about, because if you only ever drink the one wine, all you're ever going to learn is what that one wine drink tastes like. You're not going to learn anything else. So yeah, experiment is much more fun. Cool.
So we've noticed this. Yep. And now,
go on.
Well, I was going to say, I get quite a lovely fruit delivery on the palate, but also a dryness that's instantly there.
And that's tannins. Okay, so
Yes.
if you put it in your mouth, if you push it up in your gums, sort of go like that, then you'll feel a real dryness on your gums. So you have to go and move your tongue around to unstick it, which is, you know, something that is a bit unusual for people. And it's often what puts people off trying red wines, because they don't like those tannins. So first of all, why have we got them? Well, we've got tannins because if we don't have tannins, then this wine is going to lack structure. It's going to be like drinking alcoholic jam. So although they sometimes feel a bit sort of strange, the more wines you drink, the more you'll realise that actually the tannins on this wine in particular are very well integrated, and they just add to the whole sort of structure of this wine. So tannin comes from the skin of the grape. You can also find it if anyone's a tea drinker, not a rooibos tea, but a proper English tea, you know, 5 Roses or whatever. If you leave the tea bag in the cup too long, then you'll see like a brown scum on the inside of, and that's tannin as well. And then when you drink that tea, there's a dryness and a grippiness in your mouth. That's exactly the same as you're going to find in the wine. If you don't like tannins, the best thing to do is to pair it with food. So either pair it with anything that's salty, or anything that's acidic. So this is why cheese and wine is a very good combination, because cheese is salty and acidic in there together. You can pair it with meat, because, you know, you're going to put salt on that meat before you put it on the grill or on the braai or whatever it might be. If you're not a meat eater, it works with mushrooms as well. So big, fat, meaty mushroom steaks, it'll work there as well too. So try and have it with anything with salt and acid, and those will soften the tannins and make it a lot more integrated and nicer.
And that's essentially what you're looking for with a red wine as well, isn't it, Cathy? Is the balance of the mouth feel. So you want to have that tannin, because and the bolder the tannin, you could tell that either this wine's still got a long way to go in terms of aging, but it also tells you that maybe it's still very young. But if it's well integrated, and this, I must say, as you say, this, I mean, it's a relatively young wine, but those tannins are well integrated. So you're not being overwhelmed by that dryness. You are still getting that beautiful delivery of fruit. So that's really what you're going for, isn't it? Is a balance of feel. It must be something that's delicious. And when people say a wine is smashable or easy drinking, they're really talking to that, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be balanced. If it's not balanced, every time you take a sip, you're going to go, oh, what's that? You know, and wine's a social thing, you know. I mean, I'm drinking with you. We may not be in the same room, but we're drinking our wines together, and hopefully people watching this also going to be drinking as well. And it's a social thing. You don't want to really do it yourself at home. You want to do it with other people. But so what you don't want then is a wine that stops your conversation. I don't want it so I'm talking to you and we're chatting, and then I have a sip of wine, and then I'm like, what the heck's this? You know, what's going on? And then I forget what I'm talking about, because that's not what wine's meant to do. So the more balance a wine has, the more it slips seamlessly into your conversation, and just makes everything a bit nicer and happier, really.
And another presumption that a lot of people would have, which I must ask you about, is that you don't always have to pair a red wine with red meat, do you?
Not at all. Absolutely not. I like red wine a lot with cheese. I like it a lot with pudding sometimes as well. I can, you know, manage sometimes have it with chocolate. This one's got a little bit of chocolate flavour, might work quite well with that as well. And a wine like this can handle pork. It can handle a little bit of spice too, because there's some peppery spice going on in there. So you could do dried meat and things as well. And it's not so really rich and fat that it can't handle chicken, and meatier fishes. So maybe tuna perhaps, rather than like a very delicate sole. It might be a little bit too much for that. But I have a friend who believes very strongly that you should pair very, very big, bold red wines with sashimi. So, you know, go figure. People must just do what they like. It's didn't work for me, that pairing, I have to be honest. But, you know, he swears about it. So you must just drink really what you enjoy. But it's practice, which is the nice thing about wine, you know, that's because the more you drink, the more you know, and the more you drink with friends, then you're going to get other ideas from other people. So you say mulberries. I don't know why I never think of mulberries, but when you say it, I get mulberries in this wine. And that's the nice thing about that social drinking or social tasting together, is that we can bounce off each other. You know, I haven't got all the answers. So you tell me stuff that you think it tastes like, and suddenly, you know, I've got more enjoyment out of my glass thanks to you. So that's the nice thing.
It's also a dangerous thing, though, because I remember working as a wine promoter many, many years ago at a major retailer, and I was promoting Durbanville Hills, and I had got two whites descriptors confused. And I spent the entire day telling people, you should be getting peach on this. And they, oh, yes, yes, I am, yes. And when I went back and read it, oh, you've been describing the wrong wine. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose it gives another thing to think about. But, you know, if people had confidence, then maybe they'd come back and say, are you sure? I think it's a bit more green pepper, perhaps.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe said, you know, so people must never be afraid to say what they think it tastes like, and also to say they like it or don't like it, you know, because these three wines, these are wines that I love, all these three. They may not be to everyone's taste. I think they probably will, but you know, if they're not, then don't beat yourself up. Try something else and see if that's more you.
They've been a wonderful introduction, Cathy. I thank you for that. And just to wrap up, we've got some quick fire questions to end with. You can literally just fire off the first word that comes to mind. And there will be some words for one of the questions. But your first one is, and it's on the spot as well, I know it's a bit nasty, favorite variety to drink, and you can go red and white if you need to.
Probably Chardonnay, and the reason is that I am a committed bubble lover, and I love sparkling wine, so probably Chardonnay.
I love that. I now know why I like you so much, because that's my go-to as well.
Bubbles are the best thing Chardonnay can ever do, so you know, yeah.
Your most memorable wine tasting experience?
Oh, okay, well, I'll carry on with the bubble theme. I was very lucky. I got taken on a very Larny trip to France a few years ago, and we went to Dom Perignon in Champagne, and we tasted with the cellar master of Dom Perignon, and we had wines going back 20, 25, 30 years. That was pretty special.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Sure.
Yeah.
Yorkshire pudding or bread and butter pudding?
Come on, Yorkshire pudding. I'm from Leeds. Of course it's Yorkshire pudding, always.
I'm just testing you. I'm just testing you out. I wanted to see if you've been badly influenced by being in South Africa.
Nah, Yorkshire pudding all the way.
So, and the final one, after South Africa, which country produces the best wine in your opinion? Nasty, hey?
I know it's really, really boring and dull, but I probably would have to say France. And the reason I would say France is just because, not because they've got any special soils. I mean, we've got better soils in a way than France, and, you know, different aspects and all sorts of things that affect it. But France has got more documented history. So they've spent the last couple of thousand years working out which grape variety grows best, in what way and in which place. And those laws actually give you pretty darn good wines. So for now, I would say France, but, you know, the more we get to know what we've got here in South Africa, maybe we'll overtake that. Maybe we'll make better wines than them very soon. Hopefully so. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cathy. If people want to get in touch with you and register for a course,
you can go to our website, which is www.thewinecentre, all one word, thewinecentre.co.za. And there's all our information about our courses. You can take some quizzes and see which course you ought to start on, because not everyone needs to start at the beginner's course. So they can do a little quiz and see what's the right level for them. And then, of course, they can email us and ask us any questions they've got as well.
Sensational. And this week we feature a great deal on these three wines on viathegrapevine.co.za. You can get a 3-pack of all three of those wines. Just hit the Wine with Guy button to buy. And thank you once again, Cathy. This Via the Grapevine brought to you by Macbeth on Whiskey. Visit viathegrapevine.co.za or at Via the Grapevine SA on Facebook for a journey via the grapevine.